14,105. Definition of Buddha 1.4. Question. In Buddhism, it is said that there is Buddha nature inside us human beings. However, its meaning is not clearly engraved within us. We ask the Master to teach us how today's social parents should newly define the meaning of Buddha and find their roles as social parents.
The Buddha appeared so that we could study Buddha. The word Buddha emerged, the name Buddha was attached, and through thousands of years, while we evolved and grew, what a great study we were meant to do with this name. Remaining as creatures of growth, we were human beings who ultimately aimed to complete ourselves and become true human beings. But after subjecting us to thousands of years of this study called Buddha, what is happening as time goes by? Instead of studying Buddha, people have gone in the direction of falling to their knees and clinging to him. The Buddha appeared so that we would study Buddha. Therefore, through studying Buddha, we should ultimately deal with Buddha. Yet, without studying Buddha, people simply accept and follow the structures of Buddha or whatever those before them say. Consequently, everyone becomes dependent, looking up from below, and the very people who ought to become Buddhas are clinging underneath Buddha. They hang there in bunches, and on a global scale at that. When sages are presented to us, they come so that we may study sages. But because we are taught that they are sages, people just cling beneath them and exalt them. Since their names were attached to them, we should study why those names signify sages. Yet without studying such things, people have continued doing this for 1,000 or 2,000 years, making everyone dependent. Now that so many people hang on, boasting great strength in numbers, they fix a specific day as Buddha's birthday. Without even knowing who Buddha is, they pin down Buddha's birthday and try to drag the entire human race along, and South Korea is currently taking the lead in this. In this final era, the word Buddha came to the Hongik Ingan humanitarian beings and heavenly descendants of the Republic of Korea so that we would research Buddha. But instead of researching it, people are clinging to it and kneeling before it. Having done this for several decades, today we are all dependent on the word Buddha without knowing Buddha. If we live like this, humanity will have no material to teach. We will have no choice but to tell them to cling as well. If you go to temples in South Korea, everyone is just on their knees bowing. People who claim to serve the Buddha have gone down the path in the name of serving Buddha, so they are merely enshrining Buddha without researching Buddha. What on earth is Buddha that such a culture came to us so we would research to become Buddhas? This culture called Buddha, which humanity has been using, was brought to us from what they possessed. Then shouldn't we inspect it, research it, analyze what it truly accomplished historically, and figure out how to create the future Buddha going forward? We are in a world that currently needs future Buddhas and present Buddhas. The word Buddha was well crafted. Regardless of who was put forward to create it, it was made well, but that person belongs to that era. A Buddha is a human being. A human being, but what kind? A person who becomes a mentor teacher. At that time, Siddhartha Buddha was put at the forefront and categorized as a sage. In Christianity, Jesus was categorized as a sage. Then, because an opposing faction broke away saying, "We cannot accept this Jesus as a sage," they have been fighting for 2,000 years. 2,000 years since Jesus came. Whether he came to make them fight, or what kind of sage Jesus was, this came to South Korea so we would research it. Yet without doing this research, we too begin to enshrine him all over again. If the people who ought to research end up enshrining, can research ever be done? They have already fallen to their knees. Why Jesus appears so great to people, and what activities Jesus conducted during those 3 years. His active period was just 3 years long. When there were no cars or airplanes, what could he have traveled on? So how much could he have moved around, and what activities could he have done in 3 years? And during the Roman era at that. Having spoken for 3 years, how much could he have possibly said? He left nothing behind. Gathering a few henchmen, those now called disciples, and taking them around, he barely had enough time to do even that. That's why they hadn't even become his complete henchmen yet. Saying this, I don't know how much people might attack me, but think carefully. He came out and was active for 3 years, gathering a few people to follow him, walking around with them, and speaking in the fields. Even so, in the Roman era, there was no time to accommodate him in a grand palace to deliver great sermons. Then he died. God. Now, people have turned that into a piece of art to move and bind the whole world, and the other faction that tries not to be bound by it is the faction of God. Since I haven't learned formal knowledge, I speak without reading books or picking up hearsay. This is a story from within nature. Repeatedly persecuted and pushed back by major powers, hunted everywhere, wandering endlessly like a suffering nation, they finally established a single country and settled down. And that is today's Israel. And whether it is Shia or Sunni, whatever terms were used, we must recall those times. Today is Buddha's birthday, so to speak. That gentleman is also a Buddha. Since he is a religious leader, he is also a Buddha. What the Jewish people talk about is this. 2,000 years ago was the height of the Roman Empire. 2,000 or 3,000 years ago was Rome's golden age, a time when the Jews and people who believed in God suffered tremendous persecution. The very people who created Rome were those who believed in God. To avoid getting blood on our hands, to avoid fighting, and to avoid killing people, we paid money asking them to block those invading our territory. That sickness grew bigger and bigger until they built their own power, established the Roman Empire, and began suppressing Christians. If I go too deep into this, what I say won't match the history created and learned by intellectuals, making me look like someone who deserves to be stoned. Well, this isn't an era where people throw physical stones, so it's fine. But since they don't throw stones, they keep striking me with their mouths based on their own thoughts. So we live in a world where you aren't supposed to speak the truth. Today isn't a world of throwing stones, it's beating people with words. Beating people via the internet and broadcasts to destroy them is exactly the same as stoning. That's why whenever I open my mouth, people try to attack me. Why? Because it doesn't align with the knowledge learned from their books. Since whatever comes out of my mouth is a paradox that flips existing knowledge completely upside down to unpack it, people constantly beat me up, but the time for them to beat me up is almost over as well. Buddha does not refer to Siddhartha alone. There were many who were called Buddha. There is Amitabha Buddha and various other Buddhas. In Christianity, all the saints are essentially Buddhas. Then, if we remain pressed down beneath them, will new Buddhas fail to emerge? Era-specific Buddhas continuously appear. Whatever talent, skill, or power one brings forth, as time passes, all of these become Buddhas. When Siddhartha Buddha was active back then, he wasn't called a Buddha right away. When was this Buddha created? It was created 500 years after Siddhartha passed away, 500 years later, using rumors floating around. That is why in Buddhism, whenever they teach, they only say, "Thus have I heard from someone." There is not a single word heard directly from Buddha. Yet when translated into Korean, people just go, "Ah, ah," in awe. It has reached a point of sanctity where even the statement that he went somewhere, washed his feet with water, and leaned over there is treated as sacred text. As long as it was in that language, it was unconditionally sacred. This Buddhist scripture. This phrasing is famous, and it's probably right in the very first verse. Washing his feet and lying down. South Korea must awaken. When I emerged into the world as a beggar, the very first thing I said was, "Nation, awaken. If you, the nation of South Korea, you heavenly descendants, do not awaken, humanity is bound to sleep forever." The second thing I said was this. I came out holding only two things. I said, "Ask anything under heaven and earth." And I said, "Nation, awaken. If there is something you try but cannot solve, ask." Although all knowledge is out there, immense logic has been presented, and you have learned it all structured as knowledge. If you still feel stifled and need to solve it, ask now. Since I will resolve what I can resolve, ask. That's why I came out. That is why I said to ask anything under heaven and earth. I didn't mean for only humans to ask. Ghosts should ask too if they feel stifled. God should ask too if he feels stifled. No, really, God leads the people, leads his children, and leads humanity. But if we live like this, wouldn't God go crazy? God needs to learn something too. It's not just us who feel stifled. When we feel stifled, our ancestors feel stifled, and God feels stifled too. Great nature operates together. It's not just us who are frustrated. Everyone is going crazy right now. Do you think Buddha won't go crazy? Jesus is going crazy too. Yet, is it enough to simply enshrine them? When we were naive and undeveloped, it was right to grow by listening to the words of Buddha, or anyone who came as a sacred figure. But if we have achieved basic growth, shouldn't we now find and accomplish the work left undone? Instead of doing that, we came as descendants to complete the work our ancestors couldn't finish. Yet people just kneel down there, constantly exalting, enshrining, and celebrating. Oh, wonderful job, truly. So, if we just keep doing that for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years, will Buddha be delighted? Glad? Happy? Oh, really, honestly. If descendants remain bound because of him for over 1,000 years, would he feel extremely delighted, glad, and happy? Our parents, our ancestors, and Buddha are all the same. It is the exact same with God. Then, what should we research and organize from now on? Ample time has already been given for research. Ever since the end of World War II, when the official state of the Republic of Korea was established, our heavenly descendants gathered all available knowledge and accessed every culture to conduct research. Such a phenomenon has occurred for the very first time since the creation of the universe right here in South Korean society, an era where our nation, regardless of gender or age, equipped itself with knowledge. An era accessing all cultures occurred for the first time since creation. People haven't even researched what kind of event this is. A monumental event has taken place since creation. A country that completely opened its doors so that men and women alike, commoners and nobles alike, could acquire knowledge together. That country is the Republic of Korea.